Vice President Kamala Harris renewing her focus on Western battleground states as new polling from one of those states shows signs of strength for former President Trump. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. With just 6 weeks to go before Election Day, Vice President Harris is bringing her campaign out west. The Democratic presidential nominee has plans to visit Arizona this Friday, and then on Saturday she'll visit Nevada. Details on both of those visits have not yet been made public, but the vice president has already announced plans to put some of her focus on the economy this week.
Well, I'm going to be giving a speech this week that is really to outline my vision for the economy. As you've heard me talk about, I believe in what we can create in terms of opportunity for the American people. I've named it an opportunity economy, which really, in short form, is about what we can do more to invest in the aspirations, the ambitions, and the dreams of the American people while addressing the challenges that they face.
And the vice president also expected to attend a private fundraiser in San Francisco coming up on Saturday. Tickets to that event range from $500 up to $500,000. And the vice president's planned West Coast swing comes as a new poll shows former President Trump growing his lead in the battleground state of Arizona. The New York Times poll conducted over several days last week asked voters who would they support if the election was held at that moment. Former President Trump has 50% support, while Vice President Harris has 45% support in this poll. The poll, by the way, has a 4.4% margin of error. Former President Trump is focusing on other swing states this week. He made a stop in Pennsylvania earlier today, where he threatened farming equipment manufacturer John Deere. Trump said if he's elected, the company will face financial consequences if it follows through with a plan to move some of its operations to Mexico.
I'm just notifying John Deere right now. If you do that, we're putting a 200% tariff on everything that you want to sell into the United States. If we're in a war,
the former president is also planning to visit Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, and Wisconsin this week. To other news now, and today a grand jury returned guilty verdicts for the man accused of killing 10 people at a Colorado supermarket. Ahmad Alyssa did not visibly react as the judge announced the verdicts this afternoon. Alyssa, who has schizophrenia, pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity to a variety of charges, including first-degree murder. His attorneys say he couldn't tell right from wrong when he started shooting people at a Boulder King Superstore back in 2021. State forensic psychologists who evaluated Alyssa concluded he was sane during that shooting. First-degree murder carries a mandatory life sentence in the state of Colorado. Now to a major drug bust in Portland that led to 33 arrests. Fox 12's Paulina Aguilar reports tonight on this crackdown that spanned 2 days.
The mission focused on two intersections along East Burnside, one on Southeast 122nd and the other on 148th. Now, we spent some short time at both intersections today, and while we were there, we had multiple people come to us saying how unsafe they felt, either walking to work or just checking their mailbox.
I feel not safety at all. I just want a peaceful living.
Neighbors and employees in Northeast Portland are fed up with criminal activity happening so close to home.
One time, I came here in the morning and then smoke, it was inside the shop. And then I found the guy who just set the fire just in front of our front door. I opened up the door and there's all the ash just flew away, flew in the shop.
On September 13th, Portland police, along with multiple agencies and the Multnomah District Attorney Access Program, organized a 2-day mission addressing criminal drug possession and dealing on East Burnside. Portland police say 33 people were arrested. They also found one firearm along with nearly 200 grams of fentanyl powder, fentanyl pills, 30 grams of methamphetamine, heroin, and cocaine. Narut has worked at Jubilee Hall Coffee Shop on Southeast 122nd for 2 years. He says this year is better compared to last.
We always worry about what happened when we came in the morning, just to open the shop, and then we would be surprised for, the mess around the shop.
We spoke with a woman who has lived near Southeast 148th and Burnside for 7 years. She didn't want to appear on camera for safety reasons, but says she worries for the safety of her family.
They've been walking around and screaming, even though like around 5 o'clock I won't sleep well. I feel not safe to raise up kids in the city anymore.
Of the 33 arrested, 3 were eligible for deflection, and in order to be eligible, you can't have any warrants, you can't have any charges against you, and you can't violate your probation. Police say they hope to have more missions in the future. In Southeast Portland, Paulina Aguilar, Fox 12 Oregon.
An amusement park in Oregon is now suing the maker of a ride that malfunctioned back in June. The Atmosphere ride left riders hanging upside down for nearly 30 minutes at Oaks Amusement Park in Portland. The ride was shut down for 2 weeks before then reopening. The amusement park wants the ride's manufacturer, Zamperla, to pay for all park losses, costs, and attorney's fees. It says Zamperla improperly maintained that ride and didn't have proper tools to fix it. We reached out to Zamperla to comment on this lawsuit. We are still waiting for a response. The state of California has filed a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against Exxon. The state is taking issue with the company's claims of successful recycling programs when experts say a majority of plastics wind up in landfills. KTVU's Tom Vakar shows us how the state is demanding the company pay for its part in a massive pollution problem.
The lawsuit claims that ExxonMobil knowingly and deliberately encouraged makers of plastic products to use the 3-arrow recycling triangle to mislead consumers that the plastic would be recycled properly.
Doling out false promises that its plastics are sustainable and recyclable, and false promises that recycling would take care of ensuing plastic waste.
In fact, global management consultant McKinsey concludes that about 95% of plastic is put into landfills where it will not decompose.
One thing ExxonMobil actually does is recycle its lies.
Another private citizen's lawsuit, filed by 4 environmental groups, is allowed under California law, says their lawyer.
Exxon has known since the 70s that these products were not recyclable.
Every year, 7 trillion pieces of plastic are washed into the bay.
By 2050, there will be more plastic in the world's ocean by mass than fish.
Our food is so contaminated with microplastics that on average, it's like each of us are eating the equivalent of a credit card every week.
Now, when it comes to recycling, some things really work. Water bottles, heavy jugs, they work. There's a market for that. And there's also a market for clamshells, which we put food into. But other than that, especially flimsy plastic bags, there's hardly any market, and there's likely not to be any in the future.
We can't find sustainable markets. They don't exist. There's not a lot of value in film or flimsy plastics like those t-shirt plastic bags.
As a result, truckloads of unrecycled plastic bags have been, are now, and will continue to be dumped in the dump.
If there was a way to recycle plastic bags that are mixed together, we would have found it.
ExxonMobil calls California's recycling efforts ineffective, saying Exxon's advanced recycling technology has recycled some 60 million pounds of plastic waste into reusable raw materials. That's enough to fill 1,250 semi-trucks. California alone puts 4,600 truckloads of waste into landfills every day, much of that unrecycled plastic. Tom Vakar, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
A handwritten letter from the Hawaii man suspected of an apparent assassination attempt against former President Trump appears to detail his plans. Federal prosecutors say 58-year-old Ryan Routh left that letter with an unidentified person who then contacted authorities. The note starts, "Dear World," and goes on to say, quote, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you." It goes on to offer $150,000 to whomever can complete the job. Routh was arrested on Sunday after allegedly hiding with a gun near Trump's Florida golf course. Routh remains behind bars tonight. Coming up here on West Coast Wrap, federal investigators working to figure out what went wrong after 2 vintage planes collided in Southern California, killing one of the pilots. What authorities are saying about the planes that went down.
And a live look here towards San Francisco as the San Francisco Bay Area experienced temperatures today 10 to 20 degrees above average. I'll have a look at what we can expect over the west coming up.
My daughter is being raised in a world that's not so safe today. Really just pushed me and motivated me to go ahead and jump on it and make it happen.
The motivation for a new rideshare service that's launched in Arizona. Coming up tonight, we'll hear what customers think about rides that are only available to women. The man suspected of killing a woman who became a symbol of an international movement to end an epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women was sentenced today. Trey James got life in prison for the killing of his girlfriend, Jamie Yazzie. The mother of three disappeared back in the summer of 2019 from her Navajo Nation community. Her remains were found in northeastern Arizona back in 2021. The co-founder of the company that owned and operated the Titan submersible that imploded in the Atlantic testified during a Coast Guard hearing today. Guillermo Sonline founded the Washington-based company along with CEO Stockton Rush. Rush, who was one of the 5 people killed last year when that vessel imploded underwater on its way to explore the wreckage of the Titanic. Sonline left the company 10 years before the disaster. He said today he hopes the tragedy does not discourage deep ocean exploration.
None of this is going to bring our friends back. I hope we can find some valuable lessons learned that we can all carry forward and continue exploring the deep oceans. And in some way do that to preserve the legacies of the 5 people who lost their lives.
Sonline testified that OceanGate decided to build its own vessels using carbon fiber to ensure they were lightweight and less costly. The Coast Guard is exploring the cause of that implosion and looking at whether criminal charges are warranted in the case. NTSB investigators spent the day at the scene of a mid-air collision between 2 small planes in Southern California. Those vintage planes collided early yesterday morning in Lancaster, north of Los Angeles. The pilot of one plane died in the crash, and incredibly, the pilot inside the other plane walked away from the wreckage. One of those vintage planes is from the Soviet era. The other is a decades-old Chinese Air Force plane. Federal authorities are now working to determine what caused those planes to collide. Boeing executives say they have made their, quote, best and final offer to striking workers. That includes pay raises of 30% over 4 years. Union leaders who represent tens of thousands of machinists who've been on strike across the Pacific Northwest say they are now reviewing that offer. When this strike started back on September 13th, the union said members wanted a 40% wage hike. One economic group estimates this strike has already cost Boeing more than $570 million. The company introduced rolling furloughs of non-unionized employees last week in an effort to cut costs during this strike. Washington's antitrust trial to block supermarket chains Kroger and Albertsons from merging is heating up. The CEOs of both of those companies took the stand today. The state is arguing this merger would hurt competition, put stores in the state at risk of closure, and create a monopoly in the grocery industry. The companies argue the merger is the only way they can take on retail giants like Walmart, Costco, and Amazon. Today, the CEO of Albertsons addressed the importance of pricing.
Especially the time we're in now, where we've had more inflation, customers their wallets are tighter, and that combination makes an environment like this where pricing is significantly more important than other things, which is why you're seeing the Costcos and the Amazons and the Walmarts gaining so much market share. And it's difficult to compete without price being a fundamental benefit to customers.
The judge in this case is expected to hear from about 40 witnesses before deciding whether to issue a preliminary injunction. Well, we are tracking a new hurricane in the Pacific tonight. Scientists say John rapidly strengthened into a hurricane today off the coast of southern Mexico. For more, let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Rosemary Orozco, who is tracking that storm and the conditions all across the West. Rosemary?
Yes, Alex, expected to come ashore tonight and into tomorrow as a Category 3. Right now, John does have winds about 105 miles per hour. It is expected to impact much of the coastline, including areas over Acapulco, which is, as we know, a very popular destination for folks. Here's a look at what we are expecting into the next 24 hours or so. Notice the shade of red. That is a hurricane warning for that part of the coastline, meaning the possibility of, deadly storm surge as well as flash flooding as it moves ashore. Right now, the wind's 105 and moving north at 8 miles per hour, so it's not moving very quickly. By Tuesday, it is expected to be on land and will begin to break apart. By tomorrow night, expected to be a Category 1, and then will continue to, of course, deteriorate as it moves on land and loses its water source. Meanwhile, the rest of the West feeling a whole lot like summer on this first few days of fall here. A look at the afternoon highs from earlier today. Notice areas over the south, the desert southwest, ranging from 105 in Phoenix, Southern California, 109 Palm Springs, into the Sacramento Valley, nearing 100 degrees today, and areas over the San Francisco Bay, also 10 to 20 degrees above average, and temperatures ranging from mid-90s to low 100s. Expected a heat advisory that continues until tomorrow night, so another hot one for parts of the Bay Area, including the inner East Bay valleys and hills, the Santa Clara Valley stretching over towards the Santa Cruz Mountains. City of San Francisco, Oakland not included in this advisory, but again, still well below average. Here's a look at what is happening out there. We do have high pressure that is bringing that dry northeasterly flow to parts of California and creating that not only hot weather, but elevated fire danger. This low here is expected to move north in the next 24 hours, and that will begin to cool things down ever so subtly. So for tomorrow, again, expecting that into Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, a trough is dropping in from the Pacific Northwest. That could bring scattered showers to areas over Washington, Oregon, but it will continue to cool California down. You can kind of see the trough here settling in over the west come Wednesday. A look at the 3-day forecast here, starting in areas over Seattle. Temperatures are going to be mild to warm, but continuing to cool in the days ahead. That also goes for the San Francisco Bay Area, Los Angeles, upper 70s to low 80s here. So beautiful weather. Phoenix, Arizona, continuing with the heat. In fact, expected to get hotter in the days ahead, sticking above 100 degrees. Alex?
All right, Rosemary, thank you. In the Bay Area, there is now an intersection in the city of Oakland named in honor of Bruce Lee, the great martial arts legend. Bruce Lee Way is at the intersection of Broadway and Garnett Street. This is near the location of the old martial arts school that Lee founded. He was born in San Francisco, but lived in Oakland with his family before moving to Los Angeles and becoming a martial arts superstar. Oakland officials wanted to highlight the impact of Bruce Lee's contributions to the city. His widow and daughter were at today's unveiling ceremony.
I'm thrilled because Oakland played a major part in our history, Bruce and I. This was our first home when we got married.
Making this sort of permanent remembrance of him right near where his studio was, I mean, I think it says a lot about the meaning that Oakland has for him and that he had for Oakland.
Oakland City Council member Rebecca Kaplan introduced the resolution to rename the intersection after Lee back in June, and it received unanimous support from the council. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, a rideshare service in Arizona that is only for women. The unique approach for the company meant to put safety at the forefront. Plus, a family cat goes missing during a cross-country road trip, the months-long journey that eventually brought the cat back home.
Touchdown. Right on the money. A textbook touchdown.
A California native is back on Earth tonight after spending 6 months on the International Space Station. Astronaut Tracy Dyson was among the crew on the Soyuz capsule as it landed in Kazakhstan this morning. She's expected to return to the U.S. on a NASA plane soon. Dyson conducted experiments and studies on stem cell research and fire safety in microgravity during her stay at the space station. She was born in Arcadia, California, outside of Los Angeles. NASA invited her to begin training as an astronaut about a year after she started her postdoc studies at UC Irvine. A new rideshare service operating in the Phoenix area is only for women. Fox 10's Dominique Newland spoke with the company's creator, who says she designed the service to help keep women safe.
It's a car ride designed for women by women. Elena is a transportation service offering safe rides for Valley women, created by Megan Jelly, who's had issues with male rideshare drivers in the past.
My last drive back in August of last year was unpleasant as well. So knowing that, and then knowing my daughter is being raised in a world that's not so safe today, really just pushed me and motivated me to go ahead and jump on it and make it happen.
Started in March of this year, Elena uses all female drivers that will take women just about anywhere.
We do everything. We do doctor's appointments, round trip, we'll stay with you. We do standard rides. We do bachelorette parties. We'll do Grand Canyon tours. Any kind of ride you need. We also provide moving companies, a safe community of people that we know very well.
The bookings must be made 24 hours in advance through their website, phone, or text. Elena users Stacy and Stephanie say they're happy they found the service through social media.
When my safety is involved, I love that it was women owned. I knew that it would be a woman driver, especially, 2 a.m. That's kind of a vulnerable time to be out. So I felt very safe in this environment with a female-owned company, female driver.
I did some research on the Elena service, and in my research I found that she is active in the community and supports all women in business, and they have a lot of resources for us women as well for safety.
Safety ensured with every ride to make sure all women get from point A to point B comfortably. For Fox 10 News, I'm Dominique Newland.
An unexpected sight for some people visiting Oregon's coast. A dead sunfish that's washed ashore is attracting crowds to the beach about 30 miles south of Astoria. The Seaside Aquarium posted images on social media of the fish and many curious onlookers. This type of fish can grow up to 10 feet and weigh about 5,000 pounds. Seaside Aquarium workers estimate this particular fish is about 7 feet long. Sunfish are known to inhabit the waters off of Oregon's coast, but most people rarely get an opportunity to see one in person. Pretty impressive. Finally, tonight, a cat that disappeared during a family trip to Yellowstone National Park is now back home tonight after a long journey. This is Rainbow. He travels with his family. They took a trip from Salinas, California to Wyoming a couple months ago, and that's when Rainbow ran away from the family's RV. They went out searching, but finally they decided they had to return home. His owner says she thought they had lost their beloved cat for good.
Logically, yeah, I probably won't see him again. But in my heart, I just could not lose hope. I could just not let it go. So even though that day when we left, I was crushed leaving without him. It felt so unnatural to leave without him.
And then 2 months later, he was found wandering along a street near Sacramento, California, and brought to a rescue center where workers found his owners. The couple believes the cat made most of that 800-mile trek on his own, which is remarkable. He was in bad shape, though. He'd lost about 40% of his body weight. His paws were beat up. But of course, he's happy to be home, and his family is very grateful to have him back. He was determined to make it back home. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. We appreciate you watching as always. And a quick reminder before we go, you can always stay up to date on all the stories we're covering online at our website, westcoastwrap.com. Have a great night.